Oh my goodness, you cannot even make this up. The Denver Broncos just lost the most devastating overtime game to Joe Burrow and the Cincinnati Bengals that I can remember, even more devastating than losing to Justin Herbert when we were dominating that whole first half and had our playoffs in our future, even more devastating than having a 30-yard field goal blocked. There still is so much hope, and we got to get to the hope first, and then we're going to break down this game. Quick wellness check to all y'all in Broncos country. How you feeling after that game? I got 2 kids on the other side of that door just wailing, crying right now. That was rough. I'm not going to sugarcoat it, but truly we are way ahead of our development timeline, and the path to the playoffs is still wide open. I think this game showed us that this team is good. And this team went toe-to-toe with Joe Burrow and had some questionable decision-making there. We'll break it all down and more in this video. If you're new to the channel, diehard Denver Broncos fan who's sick to his stomach named Ben, it helps me out a ton and the YouTube algorithm out if you would like and subscribe. So the good news here is that we need the Dolphins, the Colts, and the Bengals all to lose one more game, and then we're in no matter what happens next week. And 2 of those teams both have benched their starting quarterbacks, whether it was because of injury or some weird stuff. So really weird stuff happening with Anthony Richardson and the Colts, and they are now putting Joe Flacco in. Joe Flacco has broken our hearts before. I don't need to remind you all of the Hail Mary when he was with Baltimore a while ago, but Anthony Richardson is out, which means the Colts are going to have a much harder time winning their game. And then on the other side, it was already going to be a tough game. We know how bad the Dolphins are when they play in the cold, and now they're going to be playing without their starting quarterback, Tua Tagovailoa. And so I think you're looking at 2 of the teams we need to lose. Both are playing without their starting quarterback, so that's fantastic. And then even just looking at this Bengals team, they're going to be without their running back and playing against a Pittsburgh Steelers team that is going to have 11 days of rest and are reeling and desperately need that win and still think they could win the division against the Baltimore Ravens if the Ravens lose. So I think there's a real world where the Broncos can make the playoffs even with just those 3 things happening. And I think when you're without your starting quarterback for 2 of those teams, and then you're playing on a long week with Pittsburgh, I think all those teams may not even be favored to win a game. So that's the good news. Getting into this, and then the positive is also that we heard at the end of that Christmas Day game that the Chiefs are probably going to be resting at least Pat Mahomes, at least Kelsey, probably some defenders as well. And so we'll be playing against Chiefs backups. We saw what happened the last time the Denver Broncos rebounded after a devastating loss, that blocked field goal. We go and rattle off 4 straight. And so this is where we're going to really see what this team is made of. How do they respond? Can they go and beat a bunch of backups next week? And even if they are full strength, are they going to respond like, hey, we were toe-to-toe with the Chiefs the last time we played them, and now our back is against the wall and we got to win? Are they going to do it? So let's dive into this game. It does not get more tough to stomach than that loss. Sire Bettinger, predominantly orange, and Lockdown Broncos said it perfectly here that that game was... It's hard to even reflect on that game because there was so much in that game. Like you had the highs of like that Bo Nix drive with 1:30 left and 1 timeout. The Denver Broncos go down and Bo Nix proved that he's a franchise quarterback. Like that was wild. I had multiple people out of state texting me like, hey, at least you have your franchise quarterback. Like when it was 1:20 left, I don't know a ton of Broncos quarterbacks who would have brought us back and scored a touchdown in that position. Amazing. We see that deep bomb to Marvin Mims was the longest error throw in the entire season in the NFL. So much for Bo Nix being a check down king because he showed that he has the arm strength there to do that. So that was phenomenal. But if you take a look at what really hurt us this game, I think our punting unit as a whole, I don't know if we were afraid of the run back or what there was, if it was the wrong cleats because we were prepping for rain or what it was, but that was the worst game we've seen out of Riley Moss as far as his ability to get any depth on any of his kicks. We saw a lot of 40-yard kicks, 43-yard kicks, and like that just didn't do it. You gave Joe Burrow way too short of a field. It felt like he always was in plus position, and it felt like conversely Bo Nix always was on the wrong side of the 20-yard line, and that was tough to stomach there to see that. This game totally was this here that we like got our hopes up, got let down, started to believe again, got our hopes up, got let down. And that game, there was a point when you're like, oh my goodness, he missed the field goal. All we have to do is like run some clock here and the Denver Broncos will make it to the playoffs on a tie game. And Yeah, that was absolutely tough to stomach there. A lot of people out there saying this loss is on Coach Sean Payton and on Coach Vance Joseph. I definitely see that. I see times where there was, why don't we go for 2 to win the game? But then you saw we had some chances in overtime there to win it. And so maybe that wasn't a horrible call. Do you think Sean Payton was right to kick the field goal there to go it into overtime? Or did you think we should have gone for 2 there? At the time, I told my wife, like, man, we have all the momentum. Bo Nix wanted to go for 2. Let's punch this in here. We seem to run the ball at will. So it felt like, man, we had to have a nice 2-play, one of those 2-point conversion plays in our back pocket. To do that, you look on the other side of the ball. I think the worst news is just seeing that Riley Moss did not look like the Riley Moss he did during those first 12 weeks of the season. And he was getting absolutely shredded by whoever he was lined up on. And I just don't think he's right physically. And then the most concerning thing is probably towards the end of that game, you saw Pat Surtain walking with a limp. And so I'm definitely going to be checking out what happens there. We'll cover all of that in the week to come, because we are now, our back is up against the wall. We're going to see what this team does with its back up against the wall here. Absolutely gut-wrenching. I'm still kind of reeling here, because you've opened the door now for the Dolphins, the Colts, and the Bengals all to feel wide awake and alive. And now moving into next week, they all have something to play for. And the Broncos could really just be like, hey guys, sorry, we got all your hopes up, because this team dug deep and responded like we did after the Kansas City Chiefs blocked field goal, and we rattle off 4 straight. I do think like we saw flashes there out of Bo Nix that made you feel extremely excited about the future. Like, what can this team be when it adds a tight end? Like, we just were shredded by tight ends tonight, and Bo Nix doesn't have an adequate tight end to throw the ball to. So that's definitely a position we want to add to this offseason. But man, we are we went to overtime and we could have won. We should have won. We could have tied. We should have tied. Even though we are eating the biggest part of Russ's dead cap, even though we have a rookie quarterback, like, that's the other part of this. This is the worst Bo Nix will ever look. And still we are toe-to-toe with a player who a lot of people are saying should be getting MVP votes. That if the Bengals are to make the playoffs, which would be gut-wrenching for us, there's a chance that that Joe Burrow could get MVP consideration. Obviously, like, he's been playing out of his mind, and Bo Nix went toe-to-toe with him, and it went till the last minute of overtime, and he beat our rookie quarterback. But you know that Bo Nix is just going to keep getting better and better. Sean Payton is going to keep adding pieces to this team that are in his image and that he wants. Like, this is year 2 for Sean Payton, and already has this team on the verge of the playoffs. So it's absolutely, like, I will probably go into the bathroom and throw up 5 times. Yet I'm also hopeful, because this is the worst Bo Nix will be, and we're on the right trajectory here. We're going to have more cap space next year. We're in good place there. You also could just looking at why this could be on Vance Joseph. Like, man, it seemed like that anytime we went to zone, that wasn't getting it done. You see, we sacked Burrow, 6 times? That was fantastic. Like, you see our front up there is great, and that's exciting. I think other cool thing to think about was just like in the first half there, one of the really encouraging things was that every single yard that we gained in the first quarter of that was a great drive to start the first quarter off, all was a first or second year rookie, all brought in by Sean Payton. So what's going to happen when he does that in year 2 and year 3? We're on the verge of the playoffs. I think if you are the Buffalo Bills and you're watching the heart that the Broncos had to go on the road in a hostile place, like, that place was out of control, lit and excited for their Bengals, and we hung toe-to-toe with them. So let me know how you're all feeling in this. Do you think the Broncos are going to make the playoffs? Do you feel like this, if we beat the backup Chiefs next week, do you feel like we've backed our way into the playoffs, or we've limped in, or we've crawled in, or do you think like we should walk in with our heads held high? The way we played tonight, going into overtime against this really good Cincinnati Bengals team, I think we walk in with our heads held high, but I want to hear what all y'all think in there. Yeah, man, a lot to think about. Sorry, this is the way we start our new year, but we still have a ton to believe in. Of course I miss it.